This is on Schoology question 10. It says use the table to calculate the slope and write an equation. So I'm going to show you how to do this a couple different ways. The bird beaks up here are going to be one tool that we use to remind you. And as long as your beaks go the same way, you can find that. So again, whenever we find slope, M, we're doing rise over run, which is our change in Y over our change in X. So I am actually going to start with my Y column because that's the number that goes on the top. So starting at a 10, going to a 15, how do I get from 10 to a 15? And the answer is plus 5. So that's going to be the top part of my slope, 5 over, and then I'll find my run. So if you don't know how to find from here to here, or if the numbers are harder, you can actually go backwards. And you can figure that out by doing 15 minus 10, and that gives you your answer of 5. All right, going the same way with my bird beak, starting on the top line, going down. How do I get from a 3.5 to a 7.5? And again, if you don't know, subtract. Do the opposite. 7.5 minus 3.5 is 4. We are adding 4 every time to get down. In a linear table, so a table that will make a linear equation, every time you do a bird beak, it will always reduce down to the same slope. So no matter where you pick, if you do your bird beaks any other place, it will always simplify down to 5/4. Now I'm going to use a test-taking strategy, and I'm going to go eliminate the ones that aren't 5/4. And from here, if we know about the equation of a line, y equals mx plus b, right now my slope is my m, so my slope should go in the m spot, which is right next to the letter x in slope-intercept form. So I can actually even eliminate this last choice. So here we are. Now to show you how we get 45 over 8, this might melt some of your brains, but I'm going to try to go through this pretty quick for those of you that like to do it by hand. We're going to use the formula for point slope, and that is y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. And we're going to go plug in our values. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in my y1 value. I'm just going to pick these beginning numbers. y1 is just talking about 1 point. So I'm going to use these values, and I'm going to put my 10 in there. The subtract stays in there because that's a part of your formula, and then my 10 is there because that's the number for my table. I also have my slope that I found, and that was 5/4, so I'm going to plug that in. I also have my x1 value, and again, that's the x value from my first point that I have, which is 3.5. The minus is there because that is in the formula. The 3.5 is there because that's from the table. From here, you do your solving. So we have parentheses and a number next to the parentheses, so I'm going to multiply. 5/4 x. 5/4 times x is 5/4 x. And then 5/4 times negative 3.5 is going to be, and I worked that out by hand, but I know that most of you won't want to do that, so I typed it in here on this line for you guys. 5/4 times 3.5. Your original answer comes out like this weird 4.375. That's not going to be allowed. We need to change that by pressing the circle in the blue area, the margin over here, and that changes it to 35 over 8 for us. And I actually need to put in a negative there because it wasn't 3.5, it was a negative 3.5. So negative 35 over 8. So I'm going to write that in, negative 35 over 8, and we bring down the left side. Now we need to get the y alone, and to get the y alone, we are going to undo minus 10. The opposite of minus 10 is going to be plus 10, because that will make them zero out. And I'm going to put plus 10 all the way over here so that we have our like terms together. So whenever I put these together, my y is now alone. That equals 5/4 x. And now I have negative 35 over 8 plus 10. So we go back to Desmos, and negative 35 over 8 plus 10, you can see it right here in box number 2. And again, you're going to see the answer of 5.625, which is not allowed. We need a fraction for this question. So I just hit that button in that blue margin. 45 over 8. So we have 45 plus 45 over 8. And that is where this answer right here comes from. So this is correct. Now that's for those of you that like to do it by hand. That's the actual math going through the steps. I have a much easier way, and here is our trick, Y1 worm. This is on your supplemental aid chart. And Y1 worm, here it is. This is linear. This is a line. So if we go to Desmos, we're going to ask it to find the equation of a line for us. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to type in the table that we see. And I have that here in this third box area. Okay, so I just typed in my table, and you would do the same. Now, how do you type in a brand new table? You get that. I'm going to go into this box 7 to show you. You would press the plus sign in the top left corner, and you're adding a table. And then you just start adding your numbers in. Okay, now I already did that step. I'm in box number 3 right here. And then I want to ask it to make a line for me. So in box number 4, I'm typing the equation in of a line. Now, nothing happened because I didn't ask it to go look at the table. If you'll notice in the top of the table, we have these little subscripts. They're low like a submarine. Subscript is a number down low. We have little ones. We need to make sure those match, and we need to put them on our letters over here. So we want to ask it to go look at the table in the Y column, so we're going to call that Y1. Then we're going to go over here, and we're also going to say X1. Now what we're going to do is, this time it's going to go exactly through all of the dots that we put. But sometimes we're going to ask it to try to get as close to those dots as possible. So we're going to use this little wavy line, which is like similar. And we're going to call that our worm because it looks kind of like a squiggly worm. So that is why we say Y1 worm. And that's going to be our memory trick for you to remind you how to type it in. Now, none of those look like the answers because they're decimals. So just like we did before, when you type in the decimal for your M, your slope, you can press the circle in the blue margin and you get 5/4. When you type in the B value, the y-intercept, you can hit the circle in the blue margin, and it will also change that to a fraction for you. So again, the shortcut, the fastest way to do this is Y1 worm. And we plug in our values. Y equals 5/4 x plus 45 over 8.